Bronson is a lovable cat. And there's a whole lot of Bronson to love. Because this cat weighs 33 pounds. So, he's one big kitty in need of one big diet.
Before we begin, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe to our channel, and click the notification bell for more amazing videos.
Furniture designers for cats, that is. Indoor cats, specifically. Their company, Catastrophic Creations, makes wall-mounted cat furniture with the purpose of promoting activity for cats that don't generally receive a whole lot of exercise otherwise. They help test Catastrophic Creations creations. And they let Wilson and Hanman know which pieces will likely be better sellers. Because anyone who knows cats knows that they have zero problem expressing their utter disdain for something. What's 3 solid feline opinions on wall-mounted furniture when you could have 4? As any good, growing business knows, to appeal to a larger audience, you need to have a larger focus group. Even if that focus group walks on all 4s. Which is where they first laid eyes on Bronson. But to land a first meeting with him, they'd need to be interviewed by a staff member first. The Humane Society was backed up, and there was no way Wilson and Hanman were going to be able to get in for a one-on-one with Bronson. They didn't leave empty-handed though. Bronson did flash his backside, which we'd call a win. Both Wilson and Hanman had fallen for the fat cat, even though the most they'd seen of him was his big butt. The couple couldn't stop talking about how much they wanted to help him lose the extra weight. The average domesticated house cat weighs somewhere around 8 to 10 pounds. A few larger cat breeds, like the Maine Coon, weigh anywhere from 13 to 18 pounds. Bronson, however, was not a Maine Coon. There, the couple spoke with a staff member who told them what they knew about Bronson. And what they knew wasn't much. In fact, it turns out all the Humane Society really knew about Bronson was that his previous owner had passed away. And that's not all. Because how else could a 3-year-old cat blow up to an astounding 33 pounds? Table scraps. Table scraps and the probable memory issues that arise in one's twilight years while trying to keep track of the number of times the cat's bowl has been filled. Turns out, Bronson wasn't just a kind kitty. He's also a polydactyl cat, which means he was born with extra toes and pronounced thumbs. Along with the couple's other cats, Ickle, Heisenberg, and baby Gwildor. Even though his preferred method of play involves lying around on a pillow, Bronson can still keep up with the others, personality-wise. His first visit to the vet mostly revolved around everyone in the office coming into the exam room to admire his robustness. Of course, they ran a few tests and discussed his extra poundage, but mostly it was admiration. Wilson and Hanman were told Bronson would need to lose weight slowly. If he crashed diets, there's a good chance he would get fatty liver disease, which is a serious condition that can be fatal. They've been making small adjustments to Bronson's food, and changed his diet only 3 times in the first 2 months after they gotten him. They put him on a 50-50 mix of the kibble he was on at the Humane Society and a grain-free wet food at home. One of the first things the couple did was separate Bronson from his upstairs napping spot so that he'd have to do some legwork to get to it. After seeing his overwhelming dedication to sleep, however, they worried it would be too much on his joints. Like letting him hang out where he wanted, at least until he had dropped a few pounds and the effort to get upstairs wouldn't come with a side of permanent joint damage. Because what's reward without a little dedication and hardish work? Bronson hasn't been the biggest fan of this method of exercise. You probably wouldn't want to have to search the house every day just to get a snack in either. Sure, he can't do a whole lot of running, but he can lay on his side and kick the shit out of his favorite toy tomato. It's stuffed and filled with catnip. Bronson gets around the house best by being carried by his owners. And by carried, we mean moved from room to room via a giant pillow. For ergonomic reasons, of course. Because back health and heavy lifting and all that. His intention was to not only track Bronson's weight loss progress, but to share his amazing story with the world. Because, really, who in their right mind can turn away from an adorable 33-pound cat with thumbs? In just a few months, Bronson the cat has racked up more than 97,000 followers on Instagram. His official job title is public figure, and he is 100% more famous than any of us will ever hope to be. They post photos of Bronson almost daily, sometimes more than once, usually in his natural habitat, a soft bed with a sunny view. Sometimes they post pics of his brothers too, but mostly it's a lot of fat cat filling the frame. For one thing, Bronson is undeniably adorable. But he's also a pretty big, so to speak, inspiration to anyone out there struggling with their own weight loss journey. It's a slow-going process, but he's proving that success is possible. And he still has a good 15 to 20 pounds to go. At the rate he's been losing weight, he'll reach his goal summer bod in about 3 years. But we kind of think he'll manage to make it in less time, especially once he starts really hitting those stairs. Bronson is only at the beginning of his journey, but he's incredibly motivated, which we can only assume from his IG, as well as charming and handsome. And he's proof that it doesn't matter what size you are if you've got a rockstar personality, which he definitely does. If you enjoyed this story, wait for our next story starting in 10 seconds. It fills our hearts with joy when we hear someone doing something selfless, like when a tourist saved a wild impala in distress during a wild safari. But it turns out that there's a bigger truth behind Steve Haley, the Canterbury chef who allegedly saved the day. Haley had been on safaris in the past, but his latest trip turned out way different from any past adventures. Although he makes his living as a chef, now he's being hailed as a wildlife hero. And as a result, we're questioning social media altogether. The first thing that comes to mind when you hear the word Impala is the 1967 Chevrolet Impala, which is a pretty great car. But you'd never assume it was a medium-sized antelope with lyre-shaped ringed horns. You've probably seen a Chevy Impala on Supernatural, a show about two demon hunting brothers who fight the good fight across the country. But wild impalas are a totally different subject altogether. And Haley would be up close and personal with one. Impalas are native to woodlands of eastern and southern Africa. They prefer to munch on plants rather than load up on a full tank of gas. In fact, there's plenty of grass and herbs for them to eat during the region's rainy season. Talking about the rainy season, these animals might thrive on a lot of food and water, but they must also stick with the herd to ward off predators. However, one impala was left all alone and would have died if not for this kind man. Impalas look like a cross between a deer and a goat because they have long necks and legs like the former, but have black horns like the latter. They're also related to goats, cattle and sheep, and they have something in common with dogs. Impalas have 4 legs just like dogs, but they also weigh anywhere from 88 to 165 pounds, which is about the same weight as a large dog. But don't scare them off because they're fantastic runners. We just wish this one impala in distress would have been able to run by himself and get away without any help from strangers. In a herd, an impala will bark out to the others when a predator like a lion shows up. And once they're aware of the danger, a hunter will have a really tough time trying to catch up to them. These amazing animals are such great runners that they can escape their predators and live another day. However, when one of them is injured or unable to run when supposed to, things don't go in their favor. Haley knew it very well, considering he's seen the African wildlife for days. Impalas are terrific runners. They can also leap up to 33 feet, which makes them very difficult for predators to catch them. They will also use their abilities to soar 10 feet over obstacles like tall bushes. But they're very standoffish. Young impalas are known as creches and they tend to roam together. Think of it as a nursery school for impalas who like to groom each other and play together. They're truly beautiful creatures to run into on a wild safari, particularly if you enjoy taking photos. Steve Haley from Canterbury is a chef who loves going on safaris. In fact, he visits the Kruger National Park where the entire incident took place. And he never expected to find what he did on that fateful day. He had taken a tent, rented a car, and camped at the national park for about 8 weeks. He had seen tons of wild animals during his self-safari, but one in particular needed his help. The man was expecting to have a great time in the outdoors, seeing wild animals and perhaps snap a few photographs of the impala herds and their babies. But he had no idea that he will become a hero. Prepare to be amazed. Haley noticed that the impala couldn't stand, but to make things worse, its herd had decided to move on without it. The poor animal was stranded and alone, and it didn't know what to do. The herd couldn't help their own kind because the poor animal was stuck in the mud. They had to leave it alone and care for themselves in case predators came close. Unfortunately, this impala wouldn't stand a chance. Haley had to do something. Pretty soon there'd be headlines saying that a tourist saved a wild impala in distress. Meanwhile, the impala was stuck and it did everything it could to get out of the water, but it continued to sink deeper and deeper. The waterhole was man-made, and for the next 30 minutes, the male impala struggled not to drown. Then, Haley decided that he couldn't watch any longer and he leapt into action. Haley knew that if he did nothing, predators like lions, hyenas, and leopards would take advantage of the impala's predicament. But he wasn't about to let that happen. He thought about his possibilities. He could have contacted experts to come help, but this would have meant too much wasted time. Haley had to act right away, so he headed to his car and realized that he was on his own. This is what he did. Haley got in his rental car and drove closer to the Impala. Then he removed his shoes and socks, and walked in front of the animal. There was no time to waste, but could he do the impossible? With only moments to spare, Haley crouched down, grabbed the Impala by its antlers and pulled it out of the waterhole. Then the animal caught its breath while Haley did the same, but there was something wrong with it. The Impala left the scene shortly after it had been rescued, but it wasn't doing so well. It appeared to be limping. Maybe it had been stuck for so long that its legs needed to get their circulation back. But did he do the right thing? Some would say that the selfless act was heroic, but others would say that Haley should have allowed nature to take its course. It's sad to think, but it's the circle of life. By saving the Impala, he denied another wild animal the chance to feed. The heroic footage can be seen on YouTube, and it's so inspiring that you would want to applaud, but Haley doesn't consider himself a hero. But he's not trying to be modest either. In a crazy turn of events, the real Steve Haley came out and explained that everyone had the story mixed up. Everyone believed a tourist saved a wild Impala in distress, except, it wasn't Haley. They got the story mixed. I am the person filming. This is what makes it so funny. Still good to have my 2 minutes of fame. That is not me pulling out the Impala unless I have doubled my weight in the last year, he commented on Facebook. The real Haley seems to be having a blast posting viral stories from the media that seem to be missing a few key facts, even the fact that the footage isn't recent whatsoever. He continued to joke on Facebook and said, "Famous at last. This is one of the funniest things I have ever seen or heard in my life and I can't stop watching it. Completely wrong unless I've put on some weight, but hilarious. Americans have made my day and hopefully made me some money?" He responded to a friend's comment on Facebook, claiming he hoped to make a bit of money from the footage he shot. But that wasn't the only twist to this story. Apparently, there's more.